Hey guys, welcome back to Unfiltered Insurance and Adjuster Talk. Now, I have been gone from my show for about 2 weeks. You all may have noticed or may not have noticed, but I have been gone. I had a root canal done, and then also, you know how you're getting those your teeth completed, and next thing you know, you go back to the dentist and the root canal is no longer good, so that tooth has to come out, and then your wisdom teeth has to come out at the same time. So at that time, you guys, I looked a hot mess. Okay, so I could not, and then I'm a little baby or whatever when it comes to pain. I do not have a high tolerance for pain. So I've been out for a little minute. This is probably my second week, but I'm back now with Unfiltered Insurance and Adjuster Talk. Oh gosh, guess what, you guys? We actually have our first guest on the show. Today's topic that we're going to talk about is an aspect of insurance. It's going to be workers' compensation insurance. I'm so excited to have this guest on to tell us more about workers' compensation. She works in the government aspect of it. And so we really want to know what is going on in our government, especially when it comes to our insurance pieces. And this is going to be one part of it. So I'm excited to have her on here. But you guys, before I get into any episode, I am going to tell you about child sex trafficking. It is happening everywhere, every city, every state. Actually, you guys, it hides in plain sight. It hides in plain sight. Just be aware of changing behaviors, avoiding eye contact, new unexplained possessions, or controlling companions. Because a lot of times what happened is that when our kids get into this child sex trafficking, they begin to possess newer things that you haven't seen them have before, or they become distant, eye contact with you. Those are some of the signs that we need to look out for with our children when we're dealing with this. All right. Now, I used to tell you guys that it is a growing crisis. It is no longer a growing crisis. It is a crisis. It is well established, this crisis that we have. And I just say to you guys, hey, look, if you see something, you're definitely going to have to say something. We have to report child sex trafficking. I want you to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888. Every child deserves protection. Every voice matters. Now, let me tell you guys, I got into this. I just stumbled on the movie, and the movie was called The Sound of Music, and it hurt my heart to see those kids being taken from their families. Those people will disguise who they are, right? They disguise who they are. They will come on and say, oh, your child can be a model, or we need them for a commercial. They're the perfect fit. Just drop them off. And next thing you know, you don't see your child anymore. Your child done crossed the United States, done went to Cambodia, done went to wherever. Next thing you know, your child is gone, and you're on a hunt for your child. And all the meanwhile, your child is being exposed and exploited for some adult's pleasure. And let me tell you all something else. Don't trust these women either, because there are women involved, and we know that there are. The current news headline with Giselle Epstein, co-conspirator, all in the headlines. And I just sort of wonder to myself, why does she get a voice? Why does she get a voice to say what she would want made public and what she doesn't want to have made public when she exploited these girls? These girls were in high school, teaching these girls on how to do different sexual acts. But she all of a sudden get a voice. She all of a sudden can say what prison she wants to spend her time in. That is unacceptable. So this is why I'm saying you can't trust these women either, because these women are involved. I don't know how they will get involved, and maybe they've never had children. I don't think she have children to where her heart is planted in something that she's birthed and never want anything to happen to them. So I don't know if she has kids or not, but me personally, with this type of behavior, we cannot trust anyone. I'm gonna tell you another reason why we can't trust them. Let me bring this to the stage for you. The former CEO of Christian nonprofit pleads guilty to possessing child pornography. The former CEO of My Faith Votes, a nonprofit that encouraged Christians in America to vote in every election, has pleaded guilty to possessing child sexual abuse images months after his arrest. His name is Jason Christopher Yates, 56. He pled guilty to 2 of 8 felony accounts of possession of child pornography. That was on Tuesday, July 22nd. 2025. Listen, this right here, this is a sheep. This is a wolf in sheep clothing. This is how they come for our children. They use the Christian base, the so-called Christian movement, and all at the same time they are preying on our children. This is what they do. This is how they get our children involved in this type of behavior. This is why at this point you're sending your children to these churches by themselves. No, you need to go with them. You need to see what it's all about, because there are wolves dressed in sheep clothing coming for our children. Can you imagine that? He's supposed to be a Christian, got a whole organization. Isn't that something? Do you remember who did that as well? I remember, what university was that? Someone may know what university that was. He was not the head football coach, but he was the assistant football coach. And it can't come. I'm trying to get it to my mind what school that was. I don't know if it was Purdue or one of those schools. And the assistant coach, he had an organization. I think it was called The Last Mile or something like that, to where it was for boys, and they were supposed to help like inner city kids, inner city our black boys, to help them along the way. All the while, that organization was just a sheep and a wolf in sheep clothing. He was molesting those children. He was even up to their college years, getting them to the school. He was molesting those boys. And I think he's in prison, but I believe that head coach actually passed away. Me personally, I believe the head coach knew as well what he was doing to those boys. And we're talking about our boys. He had a whole organization, a nonprofit called The Last Mile or something like that, specifically for boys. I'm telling you all, I know I spend a lot of time on this talking about this area. I just have to let you all know that we have to protect our children. We must protect our children. All right. Now, again, remember, I do want you all, if you can, you must report this. You want to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive into our episode. Our guest is waiting and she is ready. All right, y'all. We are ready for our guest. And this is going to be my first time having a guest, right? And that we set the stage for. I want to get into this topic. And I'm so excited because I have a special guest joining me for the very first time. She's a seasoned workers' compensation specialist who works extensively with government cases. She's passionate about making sure claims are handled correctly, cutting through the scam and are handled correctly, right? She works with injured employees. She wants to make sure they get back to work. Please help me welcome Jennifer Bruce Allen to our stage.
Hello.
Jennifer, how are you?
I cannot complain. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
No, thank you. Oh my gosh. I was just telling my audience that this is going to be my first guest. Can you believe this? I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't even know how to introduce this guest. How do I even do this?
You did great. Hey, we don't need all these long, drawn out, extensive, accoladed up introductions.
Right, right. So, Jennifer, just introduce yourself for my audience and just give us a little bit background about you.
Well, I am Jennifer Allen, and I have worked in different aspects of insurance, including Medicare, uh, Social Security insurance, workers' compensation insurance. And
Mhm.
so I've seen different, I've experienced and have some experience in all of those branches of insurance. And I've been doing this for about 15 years. So I'm well experienced and of what to look for and how to process these claims
Right.
effectively and efficiently. So, but
Mhm.
I'm still, in this line of business and plan to do it for a little while. But that's a little bit about me. I, of course, me. I have a family, a husband, children, and I do some other things on the side. But the bulk of my professional life has been in some form of
Mhm.
entitlement insurance.
Okay. And when you say entitlement insurance, what does
Yes.
that mean? What does entitlement insurance look like?
Well, it's an insurance where we are we serve the public in a way where we give them some financial stability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's an entitlement program is a better fit. I've worked in entitlement programs, so and that's what this is. It's an entitlement program. It's a program. Workers' compensation is a program uh, designed to compensate those or to uh, to give lost wages to employees who have injured themselves on the job doing in the performance of duty.
Right. So, a lot of times when you use the word entitlement, people were like, entitlement? Who think they're entitled to anything? In this today's climate, when you're using those words, I'm like, well, who's entitled? So that's why I had to say, like, well, what is entitlement
Well,
insurance?
well, the thing is, a person who have paid into Social Security are entitled to that benefit
Oh.
once they reach retirement age or are
Mhm.
disabled and are unable to work. There's a disability insurance with that program, so they are entitled. Individuals who injure themselves at work are entitled to workers' compensation. It's an insurance that their agencies pay into or their companies pay into, and so when you talk about Medicare, individuals over the age of 65 are entitled to this because they've paid into it. And individuals who become disabled for 24 months are also, even under the age of 65, are also entitled to Medicare. Um, if they are disabled and unable to work, they are entitled to Medicare after 2 years because they paid into it. So that's when I say entitled, that is what I mean by these entitlement programs. They are entitled because they've either paid into it or it's a part of their protection for work.
Okay, so pretty much when we're talking about how the federal government workers compensation process work, it pretty much ties into um, disability.
Yes, it's a disability program. I mean, it's not just the federal, it's a state. It's if you're getting workers' compensation from the state
Mm-hmm.
and you are also entitled to Social Security disability, there's an offset. no matter if you work for the federal government or you work for Winn-Dixie. If you're getting workers' compensation, injuries yourself, you're not going to be entitled to a full benefit under Social Security. They will offset that benefit because they're both disability benefits, but they're both also entitlement like programs. So there is an offset. So yeah, it all works tie in because some people who injure themselves at work go on to apply for Social Security disability.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
I see. Because in my mind, I was only thinking one way. Like if someone do get hurt at work, they're gonna go on to their employer's worker compensation insurance. I didn't realize that after that, it can move on to the other benefits with the government. So, and I heard you say a timeline. You gave some timelines. You said like 24 months. I don't know if you said 36 months. What were those timelines?
Well, 24 months. I was getting a little, just explaining a little bit about Medicare. Uh, Individual that's disabled that's disabled on Social Security disability after 24 months. I kind of went over to Social Security a little bit, but after
Mhm.
24 months, they are entitled to on that 25th month, they are entitled to Medicare at that time. They're
Oh, I see. I see. So, say for instance, if I was hurt at work and I'm still out of work after 24 months, then I can apply for Medicare.
No, what happens is if you're injured at work, because some people can go back to work, and that's the goal with now I'm going to shift back to workers' comp. And I just want to give this disclaimer. I am not speaking for any government. I'm not representing the government or any company. I'm only expressing my opinions of what I've seen and experienced and from what my own experiences. So I want to
Right.
just kind of throw that out there. But what I was trying to explain was if because some people are not able to go back to work. They've injured themselves, they have an occupational disease or something that will never heal. They've reached maximum medical improvement, meaning there's nothing else the doctors can do for them. And sometimes that means that they have to remain off work. So
Mhm.
they will just probably retire or stop working. And at the same time, in the interim, they will apply for disability because many times they can use the same medical. They'll apply for disability with Social Security. If they are out of work, if they are under the age of 65, and if they are out of work for 2 years, for 24 months, they automatically get a letter from Medicare saying you're eligible for Medicare. So now they have an open enrollment period
Mhm.
for I think 3 months. Like it's a special enrollment period where they can decide on if they want Medicare or not. So that happens automatically if you're getting SSDI with Social Security.
So, pretty
So
much, you can go from workers' compensation over to Social Security.
absolutely.
Because I was reading something, I'm just doing a little bit of a research, and I saw something that went into effect July 17th, and I'm not quite sure if this, according to what I was reading, it had something to do with workers' compensation, and it was about the $0 MSA in workers' compensation settlements, pretty much saying something about that if if you are if you don't have the proper documentation, Medicare will no longer pay for like your like your ongoing medical help that you would need. It is something that went into effect July 17th, and I was looking at that and I said, and it's something about Medicare set aside worker comp cases to where there's a $0 MSA if they don't have. Pretty much what they're saying is that if CMS will no longer review the $0 MSAs in workers' comp settlements. So pretty much saying that, okay, well, the process will go quicker, but if you don't have proper documentation, your medical costs can then be denied by Medicare.
Well,
And
I
it,
know this. If Medicare, I'm not familiar with that aspect, but I do know that Medicare, if workers' compensation program is paying for your medical expenses, your own insurance is not going to step in because because workers' compensation is an insurance. We have a branch um, where just they process medical claims authorizations just like any other Blue Cross Blue Shield. if
Mhm.
if that if that has been tagged under workers compensation insurance, Medicare is not going to pick up that claim, and Medicare is not going to pay any
Mhm.
expenses.
Okay.
Anything related to that injury is going to be sent back. So if you lost an arm, Medicare will not, and it's been flagged under workers compensation. These all of these organizations work together, so they're kind
Mm.
of intertwined. So Medicare is not going to pick up that arm medical bill when workers compensation insurance is supposed to be handling, because it's been tagged as a workers comp case.
Okay.
Now, if you have a heart attack
Hmm.
and it has nothing to do with workers comp, then Medicare will pay that. So they're not going to pay on the same injury.
I see. Okay. All right. Because that was a little confusing to me. I was looking at that article and just trying to figure out, well, who benefit and who doesn't benefit from that. But let me just ask you this, from your experience, what's the most common reason a legitimate workers' comp claim get denied or delayed, from your experience?
The medical's not suitable. The most times they file a claim, but they don't have anything showing causal relation. You have to show that the injury that you're claiming was caused by your job. Okay,
Okay.
and that mostly is the reason people don't have the proper medical, delaying going to the doctor, things like that. When you delay too long going to the doctor, and the doctor is not, because if you go right away you can tell the doctor what's going on, but if you wait a week, okay, and now the doctor has to almost lie, and they're not
Mm,
going to, because
okay.
if you see them right away, because now they got to go by what you say, and we're not going to go by what you say. Any workers compensation rep, they're not going to go by what we do give you a lot of probable probative, I think that's what it's called, um value on what you say as far as factual part of it. But when it comes to the medical, it has to be from a physician that knows the injury, that has treated you, and can
Mhm.
give a medical opinion about it and how it's causally related. And I think that's one of the main reasons, um, outside of filing for the claim itself, that people are
Mm.
denied
So
medical.
pretty much, what these employees can do to avoid these type of pitfalls is to report their injury or go to the doctor right away.
Report the injury. That is gonna, so that's gonna truly help you in the long run. Report it right away to your supervisor.
Hmm.
Because if you report it to the supervisor, you have, most workers comp gives you 3 years or 3 year window to apply. But the supervisor, one of the things is the supervisor must have knowledge of it. Now you don't want to wait 3 years to apply,
Right,
depending
right.
on the injury. We're not going to get that deep in it, but you don't want to. But if you report it to your supervisor and then go to the doctor, especially if you think it's serious. Go to the
Hmm.
doctor. But even if it's minor in your mind, you never know how things can progress. So you go to the doctor, you report it, then you go to the doctor.
Right.
Report it, file a claim, go to the doctor.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So when we're talking about, because normally within the news, about the government helping out with different issues with the American people. One of the main issues they say that a lot of reform needs to go on is because of fraud. We know fraud is a huge issue in workers' comp, people faking injuries or exaggerating claims. Can you give us some examples of the most common scams or that you've seen, and how agencies sort of detect and prevent these type of fraud and scams, because at the end of the day it hurts us. It sort of hurts us all. It make it harder for those who really need it when you have these type of scams going on.
I think the easiest way to fall through the cracks is the claims rep themselves overlooking things. Um, Individuals wouldn't get away with fraud if the claims rep themselves processed the claim, revisited the claim, and worked the claim properly to the end. But the
Mm.
reason that many people fall through the cracks is because we're not working the claims properly. We let them sit for 30, 90 days. We just pay them and not revisit. And that, if we could get a system in place, and I think when you get a system in place and you begin to at least every 30 days visit that claim, you can avoid a lot of it. Because once you get them looped hole in a system, it's hard to pull it out, pull them out. And it's going to take more money, more work to pull them out. So don't get let them fall in that crack. Your as a claims
Right.
rep, your goal is to get them back to work. That claim does not close until they are off the books. So you
Mm.
can't just let the book sit. You can't let someone who was injured in 1998 from a bruise on the top of their hands and still getting, they should have been back to work 1998, but now 2025 they're still getting workers come. They've made it a retirement program, and it's not
Right.
a retirement program. It's a program that offsets lost wages for individuals that have been injured on the job performing the duty of the job. And so that is the easiest way for fraud to emerge. The
Yeah.
claims rep themselves not processing and having a system in place to process the claim properly.
Mm. So, what does it look like getting them back to work? Saying, okay, well, hey, uh, it's time. You have. Is it something that their doctor released them, or is it, like you said, you have your case, you're looking at this, and hey, let me send you a letter and let you know you got 30 days. How does that process look?
Well, it's a process, and so when you're paying attention to their doctor's medical, and at some point you have to intervene with your own doctors and see, get second opinions and wait to see what the second opinion says. If the second opinion releases them back to work, then where you're on the, you can start the process of getting them sending out notice letting them know, hey, this the weight of the medical is falling on this doctor. We're giving the weight to this doctor, and so you need to know that we're reaching out to your agency to see, even if you can get them back to work on a with restrictions. You want to, that's
Mm.
starting the process, because you eventually gradually want to get them back to full time, full duty with no restrictions. But you in
Mhm.
the, so what you do is you make sure you provide the medical that they need. You make sure, if we're paying for medical, we want to see what the doctors are saying. If the doctors are seeming far fetched, which I'm gonna tell you, fraud can go as high as their doctors too, because they
Mhm.
could just be putting things in the file. So, and then when you believe, and there should be systems. So after so many months or a year, you schedule them out to see your second opinion. So as long as you stay within the systems and best practices, you
Mhm.
can get them back to work. And some people may not be able to go back to work. So there are systems to their regular job. There are systems in place where you can send them to voc rehabilitation, where we can find you a different job. It's
Mm.
just we just have to work the systems that are in place. And if we can do that, we can
Yeah.
get them off. We can get them back to work.
I see. So, who pays this cost?
the well, if you're on the federal government level, the federal government pays it. Each agency pays for their own employee injuries,
Mhm.
which can be very costly to the federal government. That's why it's important to, also, while you're protecting the employee, you also need to protect the uh, well-being and the interests of the agencies and the federal taxpayer money. So we have to make sure we're following the systems. But in the And outside of the government, the companies pay. So outside of the federal government, if you get injured at Walmart, Walmart pays.
Hmm.
There's Walmart and some of the states, have to pay. So it can be costly when you have, you know, 20, 15% of your employees are receive our home getting paid workers' compensation. That's a problem. And it can be very costly after a while.
I can see that. I can see that being a problem. Now, when they're on workers' comp, are they getting their full pay that they would normally get if they were working?
Mm-mm. They would get either 66 and 2/3% or 75, but it's up to 75, depending on if you have dependents or not.
Right. Okay, I see. So me personally, I know just looking at this, I would sort of want to get back to work because getting 75% of what I would normally make, that definitely wouldn't work for me.
And yeah, and after
I
12
sort of
months,
really
after 10 months, after 10 months, the agency doesn't really have to hold your job, in the private sector. After so long, the agency is not bound, or the company is not bound to holding you. Now they're saying we need to come up with a different game plan for this employee. We don't think that they're going to be able to come back and do the job that we hired them to do. So, what options? And so that's when we start getting voc rehab and different things in place for based on the restrictions that the doctors have given. And then, you know, there's other things that we do, but the at some point the employer is like, we want some of this burden off us.
right. I can understand that because as a small business person as well, I had to carry workers' comp with my logistics company. And I'm so happy no one got injured, but just having that insurance definitely would have protected me going forward if someone was injured. So, because I even think about with with my logistics company I used to have, um, we had a client who said that my guys put a scratch on her floor, even though her floors was like 25 years old. She took that to the max to where they finally settled with her almost a year later, and she got about 13,000 out of that. Even though her floors were old. So I was thinking about, when you have these smaller companies, you have workers. If you don't have that workers' compensation insurance, who is going to pay for that cost if you don't have that in
Yeah, it's
place?
important that companies in the private sector cover themselves, because although they may pay a higher insurance, especially
Hmm.
depending on how many employees are injured in
Hmm.
a year, they may, but it certainly offsets what you would pay out of pocket for an injury.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I can see
so
that now. I can really see how important it is to have this insurance. Because at first, truthfully, when I got that contract, they told me I need workers' compensation insurance. I'm like, what do I need that for? That's just an extra cost. Because on top of it, it's already a lot of money to have that base insurance already, and then you start having to add these little other endorsements to it. It takes a cost up. But then I'm like, I'm so happy that I did have that insurance just in case, because my little company, I wouldn't have been able to foot that bill or even come out my pocket and pay that type of money, with my small company like that.
because while
So
you're paying the income, you're offsetting their lost wages, plus you have to pay their medical, and that can include surgery.
yes. Oh my
So
God.
it's important for a small business that has employees to have workers' compensation.
That was going into my next question. What would be your advice to, smaller companies, government contractors, handling workers' comp, claims effectively? What would it be? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I know for sure that just not having regular medical insurance for yourself and something happens to you, you can actually go bankrupt with all that medical costs.
You can go bankrupt, but the thing I would say to a small company is have people on your team that understand workers' comp, even though they may not be the one that's handling the insurance part, but have people that understands uh, doctor's reports. Have people that are paying attention. So while the insurance company is trying to, well, this is private sector or even government. If I'm trying to get them back to work, there should be people that are hired on your team that understand workers' compensation insurance, understand workers' comp, and so they're working with the insurance company or working with me to get this employee back to work. That should be their job, a part of it, at least a big part of their job. So you need, because if you're trying to do it yourself and you don't understand the program,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's gonna fall through the cracks. But when you have someone who understands, when you have
Yeah.
someone who can read the medical report, when you have someone who understands that a second opinion is needed now, and they should know the rules of the workers' compensation policy. They should know what's the payout. They should know the federal workers' compensation policies. These people need to be hired professional workers' compensation specialists that understand the program. Have those type of people on board. It'll save you money.
Oh my gosh. I'm just even thinking about myself and I'm like, could I have even afforded someone, another person with that type of skill? Because, just to have that knowledge to me, that would be another key part of what your payroll would have to be. So, when we're going into having these small businesses and opening these small businesses, we have to pretty much bring that into account um, when we're opening these companies.
It's a
I
lot, but sometimes as a small business owner, you may consider learning some things yourself, but you should not be juggling too much. These are some key, just like having an attorney on board. And if you are required to have workers' compensation insurance and you have employees working under you in jobs like what whatever business you, it is a good idea to budget for that.
yeah.
So when you do your business plans, you should etch those type of jobs in there when you present that to the bank, if you're
Mm,
planning to get a business loan or whatever you're trying to do. But you should etch that type of position. It's like an HR specialist, and some people will call it an HR because HR specialists actually know a plethora of things. It's not just
right.
about hiring and recruiting and things, but they also have a little bit of workers comp. They understand, so it will save you a lot of headache and it'll save you money when you have people, experienced professionals on board that understands that aspect of it.
Oh gosh. This is really good, because a lot of times we're wanting to go into business. We want our business to grow and hire employees, but at the same time, there's some work in the background that has to be done, and there are some things that you have to have in order to just protect your company and also your employees.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I never thought about that until I got in that contract, and that was one of the criteria. I had to have workers' comp, and
Mhm.
at first I was like, "What do I need that for?" You know, just not thinking that these injuries do happen.
They
You
absolutely
know,
do.
they
Mhm.
happen. That's interesting. Well, let me ask you this as well. For employees who have legitimate injury or and truly need workers' comp benefits, what's the best way they can advocate for themselves and make sure they get the support that they deserve? The ones who really have these injuries.
Report the injury, file a claim, like I said, and go to the doctor. If the quicker you go to the doctor, so the doctor can see you at the point, not at the point of injury, but not too long after that, then they understand more about it, and those doctors are more lenient, and they're more willing to write up what you need to get the claim. You need to make sure that the medical shows that the injury was caused by while you were doing your job and performance of duty, and that what happened, like if you tripped and hurt your knee, that fall while you were working is what caused that injury to your knee. And
Mhm.
so when they can tie it all together and say, absolutely, when she picked up that patient and her back went out. That was the cause of her back went out when she was picking up that patient on the job. So when they
Mm,
can tie it all together legally, we have to accept that person, and we have to work with that person and get them well again, pre-injury, because that's only fair. They were fine before they picked up that patient we told them to pick up, or in your case picked up that refrigerator we told
yes.
them to move. They were fine, their back was not out, but now all of a sudden they have a back injury, and so to protect yourself is report the injury right away, file a claim, and then go to the doctor. I know someone who injured themselves in a, they were a contractor, but they were a W-2. And I said, file a claim, file a claim, file a claim. And the injuries that they sustained, they're still dealing with. They told the employer, but they never filed a claim.
Oh
And they
wow.
went to the doctor months later, and now that they have the injury, they're still working. They no longer work with the people, and now they have
Oh,
this injury, God knows how long. Protect yourself. Because even if you have to end up with a settlement, you may not ever be, and Lord forbid you get injured at work. You don't want to get injured at work. But if the doctor's done everything they can do for you, and you end up with a settlement, I mean, it may not be, what you could have earned on the job, but you get something
right.
for your injury. So that is a way to protect yourself. Those three steps. Report it right away to your supervisor. I would prefer to do it in an email, as far as and verbally. File a claim and go to the doctor. That's it.
Mm. Because a lot of us, Jennifer, they will get hurt on the job, right? And a lot of people don't even like to go to the doctor, period, when they're sick, right? And then you also have uh, where people feel like they can't miss work. They need that money to make ends meet. They need that paycheck to pay their rent or what have you. I can see that probably being a reason why they would delay or wouldn't go, because they still know they need to work and they don't know what the outcome would be for a delayed paycheck. Who's going to pay the rent? And I can see employees continue to go to work hurt because they have those responsibilities at home.
Well, even if they went back to work injured, and then it gets to the point, if they have filed the claim and they've gone to the doctor, and their doctor say, "Do you think you can work?" And you say, "Well, yeah, I need to go back to work." But then it gets unbearable 6 months later. That's called a recurrence. So then now you go back to the doctor. Doctor say, "Well, you need to have surgery." Now you're covered for the surgery. So I can understand people wanting to go back to work, but filing that claim and going to the doctor um right after an injury is so important for you, even if you decide to go back to work, because if something happens in the future, you're still covered, especially as long as the doctor is saying that you're injured and you're going to the doctor, then you're keeping your medical updated.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a recurrence is anything that happens 6 months after the injury or beyond the injury. As long as the claim has been filed, sometimes people have delayed symptoms. And
Yeah.
so 6 months later, you come back, 8 months later, you come back. That's called, then now we will see if it's related to the initial injury. If your doctor can show it, and there is consistent medical evidence, you're covered.
So pretty much, even if they do get hurt, they need to file that claim.
They
They
need to file
that's
that claim.
important. They need to make it known. They need to file that claim, and they probably can still work, but they need to file that claim. They need to go to the doctor because they need to get these things documented.
Yes. And people don't realize you can file a claim for, even if you're working from home, even though they may not, if you get carpal tunnel in your hand from typing all day, that
Mm.
can happen.
Yeah, it can. It can
I'm
happen.
sorry. You
Hmm.
can, um if you I'm sorry, but
Hmm.
but yeah, so you if your company stresses you out, and it causes you to go into this manic depression and things. There are so many things that
Mm,
I'm just saying some employers can get away with that people don't realize that if you didn't have depression or anxiety prior to whatever, your blood pressure now is 200 over 100. You never had blood pressure issues, but the demands on the job, I mean, when an injury is caused by your job,
mm-hmm.
you have a right to file a claim. You
Mm.
know, you do. So, and I say protect yourself in doing that.
Wow, wow. I think about that sort of put me in a line, put my mind, because my mind sort of goes a little further. And I say, gosh, Lee, I wonder if other countries have this same benefit to, file for workers' comp if they get hurt or what have you. Uh, I believe that this is something that we need to always continue to fight for, uh, because I can see that this piece can probably be removed to protect the companies or bigger organizations, especially when you're talking about people or employees, uh, just to have that freedom, the freedoms that we have, that these laws in place, that we can file for workers' comp, and then it goes from workers' comp to this to that, to make sure that we're supposedly good. um I can see in my mind, I can see this type of program at risk because it is to benefit people. Like uh Elon Musk recently said that Social Security is a scam. And so what I'm just saying is that if you get people in place and they're looking at this and saying, well, this could hurt my bottom line, let me get the right people in place to shut this down. Just looking at it from a whole, because this is something very important. I really didn't see it as so important until I had to have it, and until I had that one claim, and it wasn't related to workers' comp. But if I didn't have insurance in place, that lady wanted her whole house all her floors done, from one little tiny scratch that she said that my workers did, even though her floors was about 30 years old. They had wear and tear, but that was her opportunity. If I didn't have that insurance in place, she would have been coming after my company, which was already like underwater. So, it's just, it just sort of take me into a whole nother mindset, is that we have to stay aware. We have to know what the laws are, and what, like you said, what we are entitled to.
Yeah. I think it protects everybody, and that's the benefit of labor laws that protect the working class. Without the working class, this country would not even be standing. It's the working class that keep us going. So you
Right.
have to protect your working class. I don't know what other country wouldn't protect their working class, because without the work, it's not the government that
Mhm.
keeps a country going. It's the working class.
The
And
working class.
so prior to that, I'm not sure what started workers' compensation and the labor laws, but I know that people who worked in coal mines and back the black lung
Mm.
diseases and different things. For a while, these people weren't protected, and even child labor laws. Children would be working in all of these jobs and working late and not getting educated and things, and so they had to put these things in place. And so not only they're protecting children, they're protecting um, people who worked in the mines and people who work on the shores, the harbor at the harbors, and they protect the working class. So I think I'm grateful
Yeah.
that someone saw fit to create laws that protect
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
So we're not the decision makers, but we are the ones that
Mm.
keep it going in any country, the working class. So I'm grateful for those laws that protect us.
Absolutely. Well, Jennifer, we're going to end there. And this was good. And I really want to thank you for being my very first guest.
It's my pleasure.
And I hope I was a good host.
Yes, very interesting. Thank you for inviting me. This was very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, hey, please promise us that you will come back again. If we have more questions about workers' comp and would like to have your expertise again. And again, I want to thank you for joining us, Unfiltered Insurance and Adjuster Talk. All right, Jennifer, take care.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, you guys, that was our episode. That was my first guest. And oh my gosh, I didn't think this was going to take so long. I never have an episode this long. But when you get into talking about laws and what's covered and what you're entitled to, it can get a little lengthy. But I do want you to remember this. I want you to stay aware, stay covered, and be smart with your dollars. All right. I want to take you back to understanding that you want to start supporting businesses that invest back into our communities. That's how we build, that's how we strengthen each other, that's how we are resilient. All right. And just remember, I am Contesia, and this has been Beyond the Claim. I will see you next time.